Hello, audience. Oh my goodness. And hello to the lovely Blair Kaplan Venables. I am going to tell you all something. I just recently had my first conversation with Blair, and it is a complete pleasure and honor. And I will tell you all, when we had our conversation, I had no idea where that was going to lead with accountability. Blair is all about resiliency. She wears many hats, but the one we are going to talk about today is her resiliency coaching, how that came to be, her beautiful mission and vision moving forward in her life, and how she got there. Oh my goodness, Blair, please introduce yourself properly to the audience and tell them a little bit about you. I'm so excited.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's such an honor to be here, and thank you to everyone who's watching this. Carol, it feels like I've known you in another life. I guess feels like a soul connection. So I'm really excited about this. And so, who am I? Blair Kaplan Venables. I'm the founder of the Global Resilience Project, which is a social enterprise and community that shares stories of resilience. I'm a grief and resilience expert. I've been featured in USA Today, Forbes, Apple TV, Amazon Prime Video. I'm up in Canada, Kamloops, British Columbia, so I've been featured in Canadian media as well. And um, you know, I kind of went on a personal journey, which is how I became a grief and resilience expert. But when I'm not growing the Global Resilience Project or helping you and the people out there strengthening their resilience muscles, you can find me immersed in the world of social media and publicity and running my PR company, Blair Kaplan Communications, which I've had for 16 years.
And and she's so young and she's done all of this. Blair, if you would please share with the audience how this resiliency mission and helping people, I love the growing of the resiliency muscles, how that came to be through your story.
Right. And so before I begin, I just want to give a content warning. My story is heavy. We talk about addiction, loss, and some other heavy things. If you feel like you need to pause this and step away, please do. If you need help finding resources in your community, you can reach out to me and I will help you find the right resources. And I just think that's really important
Mm.
to give you that permission to do that. So I'm the daughter of a man who lived with addiction and a child of divorce. And I was very close with my dad, but when I was 7, my dad's addiction to cocaine got really bad. He sold his business. He was a diamond dealer and a gemologist, and he left our family. No one sat down and told me what was going on. So I thought my dad stopped loving me because
Mm.
I was very close with him. And now he would tell me he'd come to my birthday party and not show up, tell me he'd pick me up for family time and not show up. And so this happened time and time again. And so in my formative years, I developed, abandonment issues, depression, anxiety, and a very complicated relationship with my father and men. And so growing up, was challenging. I had a very great support network. My mom was amazing and my grandparents and my community. So I was very lucky that way. In my 20s, I was given the gift to go to the Landmark Forum through my employer at the time. I took it, I went because it was a free trip. Like I didn't care about personal development. I was like, oh, I'm 20, like at the time too. I just want to party with my friends. But anyways, there I was given the tools I needed to forgive my dad and accept him for who he was. And we developed a very beautiful relationship. And I started to really learn he loved me the entire time. I started to understand about addiction. His addiction was to cocaine, then into injecting drugs, and then to crack. And really understanding the mental health struggle there with the addiction. And at this time, I'm from the middle of Canada, Winnipeg, Manitoba, and my dad still lived there. And I moved to British Columbia, and my dad started to come visit me all the time. And I got another chance. He walked me down the aisle with my mother at my wedding, which I never thought was possible.
Mm.
But at the end of 2018, we learned he was terminally ill, and I felt robbed I didn't understand why he was being taken away from me because I already had lost so much time. And I started letting the skeletons out of the closet, the taboo topics that you don't talk about, airing the dirty laundry, because that's how I was processing. And anyone that would listen, I would share our story of his addiction, my forgiveness, and our resilience. And that was inspiring people. It was inspiring people to fix relationships, seek therapy, creating a safe space for them to share stories with me that they've never shared before. And so I said, Dad, what if we write a book and we gather stories of resilience from around the world and we bookend the book with your story at the beginning and mine at the end? So when you're no longer here, we can still help people.
Mm.
So in March 2019, we started the Global Resilience Project, and the plan was to put out a book. However, this is where it gets a little dark. Um, as I'm collecting stories from around the world, my sister joins me in the project, Alana. She's our mental health director. I really had my resilience tested. And from launching the project until getting the first book out, my husband almost died.
Mm.
We suffered a miscarriage after struggling with fertility. 3 weeks later, my father-in-law suddenly died after a 3-week battle with cancer. 3 months later, my mother suddenly died after a 3-week battle with cancer. And then my father passed away the same year as my mom in the same week. So like 360 days apart. And just so you like can get a grasp of that, like I'll be 39 in August. So it was a lot. It was compound grief and compound trauma and a lot to navigate. All over Canada. So like my parents they weren't together. They were both in Winnipeg. I'm in British Columbia. My father-in-law and mother-in-law lived in a different city, like 3.5 hour drive away. So it was a lot of different layers. But I didn't give up. I kept putting one foot in front of the other. And by June 2022, I got our first book out, The Global Resilience Project. It became an international bestseller and it showcases stories of resilience from around the world. And I thought this was it. I was like, okay, I got it out. I survived barely. And yeah. And so I took a vacation, the pandemic, and oh yeah, during this time was a pandemic. And the pandemic, like Canada opened their doors and we were able to travel. And I went on vacation. And my mom came to me in a dream. She visits me a lot in my dreams. And in my dream, my mom was telling me how proud she was of me, and I was getting ready to put out my second book. So I woke up, I was like, I'm doing another book. Why stop now? And like, because I realized I started this global movement with a podcast and a clothing line, and I became a motivational speaker and a writer. And we have strategic partnerships, and it's a social enterprise where we donate to organizations around the globe. And so I felt energized. And so I announced the second book and we did a bit of a rebrand and we called it Resilient AF, Stories of Resilience. And it comes in soft cover, hardcover. And, it's a really beautiful book. I'm trying to open it. It's a really beautiful book that showcases stories of resilience, same as the first one, but a bit smaller, same amount of stories. And then as soon as the book came out, March 1st, became a bestseller. Blair, are you doing another book? I want to be in your book. So I I'm really excited because we're handing out copies of our books at Oscars gifting lounges, Emmys gifting lounges. We're going to be on a billboard in Times Square in New York featuring everyone that's in our book in January when we launch volume 2. And my purpose in this lifetime is to empower 888 million people to strengthen their resilience muscle. I'm 800 million away. I got to the 88 million mark. And creating these safe spaces for people to share their stories, because neuroscience tells us that when we share our stories, it helps us heal. And when we hear other people's stories, we build connection and it helps us navigate our challenges. So that's just a little bit of my story.
And it's incredible. And first of all, it's amazing to me the beautiful gifts that have come through your literally, as you said, you had compounded grief.
Mm-hmm.
I just cannot imagine the effect on. I love you've already gotten your 88 million touches, but you're going for that next 800. And I really, because it's so important. We do not on this walk on this planet escape grief.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people need a safe place, which you provided, to share And like you also said, these conversations that people don't want to have, they don't feel like it's safe to have. They don't know even how to share it, even how to verbalize. And one of the things that we had talked about is by you and your dad, which how incredible, you sharing this allowed other people to realize that they had a voice, that their grief had a voice.
Mhm.
And just what a beautiful mission. I'm covered in chills. Let me ask you a question. Uh,
Mhm.
as accountability being the foundation of this particular conversation and summit, and a lot of at least 80% of the reason that our audience is with us, how do you relate accountability to this conversation of resilience
Mhm.
and flexing our resiliency muscles and growing them? How do you relate that?
I love that question. So there's a lot of things that are not in our control, but there are some things that are, and you are in control of how to strengthen your resilience muscle. And I talk about, scientifically proven like ways to do this. And you are responsible for your actions and behaviors. And there are small micro steps that you can do so that you are more resilient. And you have to be accountable for yourself. So let's talk about some of those ways. One of them we just talked on was storytelling. So that's really important. We provide that space if something resonates with you and you'd like to be featured in our next book, you could reach out. Um, my most favorite way is practicing gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a discipline.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2016, which was 100 years ago, just kidding, I was going to a wellness retreat and I had to watch a bunch of videos ahead of time. And I saw this TED talk from Sean Acor from the Happiness Advantage. And what he said was that if you practice gratitude every single day at the exact same time, and you list three things that you are grateful for from the past 24 hours and be as detailed as possible, and you do this for at least 21 days, the neural pathways in your brain rewire so you see the world in a more positive way. Sorry, I stuttered a bit. I got excited. And so that I was like, oh, that seems too easy and free. So I opened up my phone. I set an alarm to go off every day of the week at 9 p.m. I labeled it gratitude alarm. It still goes off. My husband, when he was in the hospital, me, his mom, his dad, and our roommate, every day at 9, we listed three things we're grateful for. My mom on her deathbed. So just a sidebar, my mom learned she had cancer and was told she'd be fine. She didn't even make it to a biopsy. She didn't feel good, went into the hospital. They said, you know what, your body's covered in tumors. You have 2 weeks left to live. And she died 3 days later. The day before she went to sleep her final time, me and Alana were sitting with my mom and we did our gratitudes. Alana went and then I went and then my mom went and she said, I'm grateful for you, you, and you. And we're like, who's the third you? She said, me. And that was some of the last words she said.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. My dad, the day my dad passed away, we're Jewish. He died on the 18th, which is a very spiritual number for us. It means chai, it's life, it means life in Judaism and Hebrew. And he died at sundown on our Sabbath. That night, my family and I stood around and we practiced gratitude. We were grateful my dad was no longer suffering. He was really, really sick. We were grateful that my uncle from BC made it to Winnipeg on time. And we were grateful to all be together for that. There's always something to be grateful for. And sometimes I'm grateful the day is over for Advil and for my bed. But I have a friend who we text each other. My husband and I do it every day. If I hit my alarm goes off and I'm kind of not feeling it, sometimes I hear him yell from across the house, like, I'm grateful for hockey, cats, and boobies. Like, we do it no matter what. And sometimes if I'm going to bed before 9, we do it earlier. Sometimes if I forget, we'll do it in the morning, but it's a practice. And when people are like, how did you get through all of that loss? I stuck to this habit. My sister, when my mom died, it was during COVID. like before the vaccine came out. So people had their bubbles and like, I don't even know. I don't know if what American terminology is, but like we had our people, like you couldn't, like no one would imagine this. Your mom dies suddenly, no one would hug you. So my aunt and uncle and my two cousins and my sister and I spent a month together. And we were there for dinner every night. Like we, basically, went into the bubble. And every night at 9 o'clock, we did it while in deep mourning,
Un-
mostly grateful for bagels, but
so I thought about throwing myself down just in gratitude and tears from what you've shared. So thank you for that, first of all. And I know the audience, there's just no telling the impact this has made. At 3 o'clock each day, my alarm goes off, and it's a prayerful time for me because by 3 o'clock, I've for sure gotten off track and maybe I'm not being grateful for the day.
Mhm.
Um, it's a divine mercy hour, and I love it. I love the Jewish faith, by the way. I think it's so beautiful about and just everything about that. Um, you're accountable. You chose, because it's a choice, to become accountable to the practice of gratitude, which changed things literally, physically,
Mhm.
mentally, and your and spirit in every area of your life. So accountability, and we talked a little bit about this before, is really the foundation of your practice and of your resiliency and of what you do every day. I have to tell you, I think that a key learning here that you've shared from, I can't remember the gentleman's name, same time of day,
Mhm.
one days. For me, it's the 3 o'clock. For you, it became 9 o'clock. But that, and I'm not sure for you, wonderful audience, but that is a nice little detail, not nice little, very important detail that she has shared. So, I mean, Blair, this is so huge. And what you're doing is so important. And I just appreciate you so much. As we have our other conversations, I'm looking forward to each one of them so we can go deeper into each one of these areas where you are helping others and educating. So I appreciate your story. I appreciate you. And trust me, I do gratitude every day, but it will be done the same time every day, beginning today. Because I'm so grateful for this. And I wish we had so much time. I wish the audience had more time. I know they want more time with you. And you're sharing, which everyone has on their links. But would you talk a little bit about what you're sharing with the audience before we say goodbye for today?
Yeah, thanks. And I love that you're gonna now add in the scheduled gratitude at the same time. And I invite everyone to open up their phones and set an alarm and just do it. Just do
Yes.
it. Like, just do it. So you are getting a 5 secrets to strengthening your resilience muscle workbook, which is going to talk about the three other ways that, based on neuroscience, on how you can become more resilient and guidance in those practices. So got a little workbook.
I will speak for myself and everyone else. We all, if we are accountable to the work, the changes will come. So,
Hmm.
my little add on to that is, y'all, let's fall in love with the work. That's the part, the learning and the growing and everything else is just a
Yeah.
natural, you know,
Well,
get,
listen, healing it and it like healing is a big part. Being accountable for where you're at in life and knowing that you can feel better is huge. Taking accountability for your healing and for your resilience and your strength is important. And know that healing is messy, but beautiful.
messy and beautiful. Oh my goodness. I cannot thank you enough. And I want to say this for the audience. Audience, I apologize. I know I can't do it well enough from all of you, but thank you, Blair. I cannot wait for our next conversation. And I'm going to set my alarm right now.
I love that. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks to everyone who watched.
I loved it, every second of it.